watching Traxion. I'm Tom, and joining me today is Justin Sutton. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thanks. So we're joined together today to talk about Formula 1 2021, the official video game, because it has been announced.
Yes, it has.
How excited are you?
I'm very excited. I've been following obviously the F1 games since 2012, since I got into Formula 1. So yeah, this is obviously huge news. Tons of racing game fans play the F1 game. So yeah, this is huge news for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the biggest games of the year, especially because maybe there might not be a Forza or a Gran Turismo this year. So F1 is our mecca. So without further ado, what we're going to do here is a bit of a reaction video. This is just rapid fire. The news has literally just gone live.
Just happened.
So yeah, absolutely. This is hot. So what we're going to do first is we're each going to watch the trailer, which has been revealed, and then we're going to go through the press release. So without further ado, you can watch us watching the trailer. Brilliant. Oh, there's a red light, but it's smashed to pieces.
By a helmet. There was a person in that light.
Oh, there's someone talking.
Anything for our star driver.
It's all CGI rubbish. Looks nice.
It does.
Here we go. Ackerman's going for
Who?
it. Down the inside of the hairpin. Oh, this can't work.
Well, a bit of David Croft there talking about someone.
He's a brave man to admit he can't compete anymore.
Oh, that voice sounds like Butler
Christian
from 2019. Oh, Christian Horner.
I thought it sounded like Christian Horner.
He never stood a chance
Hang on.
with him.
How far will you go?
Oh, they're fighting.
Oh.
You want respect, you give respect.
Oh.
That's how it works.
Before you reach your... What? Breaking point.
Ah, okay. They deleted the E.
They deleted the E. Okay, and then a splash screen at the end with the nice colours.
Right.
16th of July. Okay, so zero gameplay, first of all.
Yep.
So that was a very nice, polished, expensive trailer. That to me says the EA money has come in quickly.
I do wonder though, actually, if because I mean that sort of thing I would imagine takes a little bit of time to create.
True,
so
true.
I'm not sure if that would have been
Yeah.
EA's doing or if that's just purely Codemasters.
That's a good point. Well, I think that
it was nicely done.
Yeah, it was nicely done. It set the tone, and I think what we should mention is there was a leak a couple of weeks ago, and now this looks to be absolutely correct. If you look at the blue and the graphic design at the end of the video there on the splash screen, that's exactly what was leaked. We had a little jokey video that's already on the Traxion YouTube channel about that. We didn't want to do too much because, it might not have been true, but okay, that I mentioned Breaking Point, which is clearly a story. And to me, the voice of that sounded like Devon Butler from F1 2019, who was an evil protagonist in the game who you had to sort of fight against. So, all right, that was interesting. Bit of David Croft there. All right, fine. But let's go on to the website now. So this is the first sign of EA's influence because it was released on EA.com, not the Codemasters site. Or if it is on the Codemasters site, I haven't seen it yet. So on here, there are a series of sort of subheadings, and we're going to go through and talk about each one and what we think it might entail and how it might actually play out. Because at the minute, again, no gameplay, no in-game or in-engine footage. The details here are a bit light.
There's a mistake at the top I've just noticed above
Brilliant.
what's new. It says the official video game of the 2021 FIA
Oh,
Formula 1 World Championship.
So what's that? 4,042? Goodness me. Oh, well. Below the mistake, or just after that, actually, the next sentence, racing onto your PS5, Xbox Series X or S, PS4, Xbox One, or PC via Steam on July 16, which is a very American way of saying it. So we know then from that it's coming to the new consoles, which is big news. And also it's mentioned Steam there, not Origin, which is a relief.
Yes.
Are you happy about Steam?
Yeah, that is a huge relief for absolutely everybody that's playing on PC, I would imagine. I don't think anybody out there. Well, there's probably one guy. I would assume there's one person out there that does prefer Origin over Steam. But yeah, the vast majority of people are going to be absolutely thrilled about that for multiple reasons as well.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've got a Steam collection or achievements going on there, or all your friends are on there.
All your friends, yeah.
Yeah. From a console side, I'm relieved because they're in a tricky scenario. They sort of want to be on the new gen stuff to make the most of the power, and they're selling well, I understand. But ultimately, the bigger player base at this time, cross-gen time, is going to be on the old ones.
That makes me wonder, though, how much has changed graphically and with the physics engine. If it's still going to be available on the old gen consoles, can it be that much of an overhaul?
We'll have to see, because we have literally no idea, because there's not even a screenshot right at this point, or the time we're recording. If it might change in the next hour, which is weird. It's actually quite weird. That suggests to me, pure speculation, that this is not that different for either next-gen console owners or PC players. It's basically like a polished version of the current engine. I would hesitate to guess at.
Yeah,
and
which
it's a cross-gen title.
That's not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
That could mean that it's going to run really, really well. It could mean that there's a lot of bug fixes. I know the vast majority of complaints from about F1 2020 have been from like the esports drivers, and it's very like nitpicky kind of bug stuff involving the pits and other small things like that.
Yeah, safety cars, penalties, track limits.
Exactly. So this is potentially really good news for the esports side of things, because it could mean that they've managed to iron out a number of those bugs and glitches. And
I don't know if we find out later on, but it'll be interesting to see. I don't think there's any mention of like what frame rates it can run and if it's native 4K and all that. But anyway, the main thing is back in 2014. Codemasters missed the new gen by a year. So back then it was PS3 360. And then when they did arrive, was it in 15? It was like a feature-like game.
Yep.
Now, this does not sound like a feature-like game. So
no.
Straight up, this sounds like a cross-gen gap. And then maybe like the real next-gen version will come like next year or the year after, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Good.
That sounds about right. So, but again, that's not necessarily such a bad thing.
That's true. Yeah,
F1 2020 was John Monroe's favorite F1 game of all time, or was it yours? Actually, now I'm forgetting.
It was mine.
That's right, it was yours. But I mean, it's a very, very good game. So hopefully 21 will just be a slight improvement. And I don't think there's going to be, personally, I don't think there's going to be much hint of EA's influence just yet. I think we're still a little bit away from seeing that, because I mean that just happened earlier this year. For anybody that's worked in the video game development industry, that's not enough time for any sort of real impact to have happened. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is all still very, very much Codemasters with maybe a little bit of EA influence in terms of like pricing and the Bitcoin and
the marketing,
all that kind of stuff. Right. Exactly. But
hence why we're viewing an EA website, for example.
Exactly.
So moving on, there's a what's new ? And the first point is Breaking Point, which was teased in the trailer. And for me, the main focus of the trailer seems to be this mode. So with that in mind, it just says here, go on an epic journey with Breaking Point, our brand new story mode. Rise from the ranks of Formula 2 to a shot at stardom in the world of Formula 1. And then it goes on to say, experience the lifestyle both on and off track, which is interesting. So to recap, there was a story in Formula 1 2019. There was a character called Devon Butler. I'm fairly certain it's his voice in the trailer there for the game. He's mentioned specifically here. And that was, you played, I think it was 3 Formula 2 scenarios. So you were sort of halfway through a race and you had to let your teammate past, or you had to try and get a certain position in the next one. And in between, there were some cutscenes between a protagonist, Devon Butler, and also like your mate, he was called Weber. Yeah, right. And so it was really cool, but then it didn't really go anywhere. As soon as you made to Formula 1, they were in your season, but there was no cutscenes, there was no story, no mention of them. And then for 2020, it was disappeared completely.
Yeah.
So we're back again with a story.
which I think people will like. Certainly,
forward to it.
Devon Butler became like a little bit of a meme.
That's probably why he's back. Yeah.
Right. People really seem to. He's one of those people one of those characters that you love to hate. He's like Joffrey from Game of Thrones or something like that. Like everyone just loves to hate on this guy.
Yeah.
And he definitely has some parallels with real racing drivers. I won't say who. I'll let you guys figure that out at home, but he definitely seems to have some of the characteristics of some real life Formula 2 drivers and whatnot. But yeah, I'm really interested to see. So it sounds like this is probably something that they would have hired another team for. So they probably hired some kind of story team. And maybe that's grown since 2019. Maybe they took the year to work on this.
I would hope so.
Maybe that's why we didn't see Devon Butler in 2020, is because this team, they took that idea and they were like, well, we don't have enough time to get it ready for 2020. Let's put all our eggs into 2021, the last of the games that'll be on PS4 and Xbox One.
Makes sense.
And let's really make it story heavy. And maybe, I don't know, maybe they did get some people from EA to help. I mean, I can only speculate on that, but it seems like they put a lot of work into it. It sounds really neat, but ultimately it's one of those things that's going to be interesting for the first few months of the game's release, and then it's gonna really dwindle off and die off.
Yeah,
or at least I think it is, unless they update it, which
it's going to be hard to motion cap people for updates and stuff, isn't it?
Right.
If they make it that way. But you made an interesting point now. I think maybe that it's been 2 years in development because last year was my team. So that's cool. The weird thing with Butler being involved, and it says here, rise from the ranks of Formula 2 is in F1 2019, he was promoted to Formula 1.
Right.
So the story must be that he's already in Formula 1, unless he's taken a really weird demotion to F2 and then he's trying to get back in it. Can't be the case.
We can presume that there's no Formula 3 as well, just from this first paragraph right away, because it says rise from the ranks of Formula 2. If Formula 3 was going to be involved in this year's game, it's pretty safe to say that they would have said rise from the ranks of Formula 3. At the end of the trailer there, I noticed it had the trademark for Formula 1 and Formula 2 and not Formula 3. Now, got it.
That's fine. It's not a problem. But I would say that the MotoGP games have Moto 3, Moto E, and Red Bull Juniors for you to sort of a Red Bull Rookie Cup even. And so it would have been nice, but okay, they're focused on the story and the other elements, and so F2 is great, no problem. So I guess we should rattle through the next ones. Next big bullet point: 2-player career. Now, there's no specifics basically on this, other than you can play a career with your friends, either cooperatively or competitively. So I would assume it's online. And in previous games, you could do online championships with friends and go through, right?
Yeah. The last time I played it was, I believe it was F1 2013. I did a co-op championship with one of my friends, and we were in the Williams. That's how well I remember it. It's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and it was definitely one of those things that one of those features I was surprised ended up getting left behind at some point. And it's good to see it return. And it sounds like it says either cooperatively or competitively. Now, interestingly, the F1 games, obviously, they can handle over 20 people being connected to a lobby at once, because you have 20 cars and then you also have spectators and stuff. So what would be very interesting is if you could have more than 2 people doing a co-op season. If you could have like 8 people doing a co-op championship together, because it says cooperatively or competitively. So you could have like 2 of your friends driving for Ferrari, 2 of your friends driving for Red Bull, 2 of your friends driving for something else. They don't specifically say that it's only 2-player.
I'll just interrupt with that, because above that it says 2-player career in big words.
Oh, does it? Oh, it does say 2-player career. That is the actual bullet point.
We are reacting live, and this is the beauty.
Well, so still competitively, you can race. So I would assume that means you can race for other teams.
Yeah.
And
so
I would assume that means that there's like maybe driver movements possibly in the co-op, which would be neat. Know.
That would be neat. My takeaway from this is it doesn't say 2-player my team. It says 2-player career. And now in 2020 there was my team, but then there was also like a career mode as well, which was basically where you drove
Right.
for established teams.
Right. There was only 10 teams on the grid versus 11 for my team.
Correct. So I would assume it's in that. And then when it says cooperatively or competitively, we don't know, do we? So we'll be interested to see what happens next. My guess would be something like, okay, you can both be in the same team, or you can be in a team each, but you still race at the same time, if that makes sense. So you're in the same race as me, but you're driving an Aston Martin, I'm in a Ferrari, or we're both in the same team.
Yeah,
so you can
I would assume so.
Something like that. Yeah. But they're really good with their online system in terms of being able to rejoin lobbies if you have an internet glitch and stuff like this. So, and they've had online saves before. So this just seems a re-edition of that in many ways for me. So the next one though, is not a re-edition. This is fresh and new, and we really don't know how this works. Real season start. This feature lets you jump into the season's action, reflecting the live standings, and then you can take over and drive the remaining races. Ooh, what do you think about that?
So I think I wouldn't want to do that. I don't really understand. I don't get that one on a personal level. I think it's neat that they're going to let people do that, and if other people, are having a great time with that, then that's fantastic.
The more the merrier.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great if they are. But yeah, I don't really get that one. Why you would want to take over? I guess it's like those challenges where it's like, oh, you're on lap 67 out of 70, and
true.
You know what I mean? And you have to like kind of continue from there.
Yeah, so if you're a Sergio Perez fan and 10 races in or whatever, he's like 5th in the standings, you could then imaginarily or virtually win the championship from that point, I guess. But it feels like it's like we've got this really cool online live standing system. What can we do with it? And we've said a couple of times it's probably too early for EA's influence. But maybe this is one element. Oh, I don't know.
I was thinking the same actually, because I wonder if any of EA's games, and this is where our lack of knowledge of other sports really starts to come into play here, or other sports games anyway. I really don't know if this is something that EA does with their other franchises and titles and stuff like that.
Well, if you're watching and you do know, then put a comment on YouTube or on the website or on social media and let us know where we're going wrong.
And let other people in the comments know as well, because they'll be going down to look for an answer probably because we don't have it.
Yeah, but EA games like FIFA and Madden do have live stat updates based on that week before's performance,
and
so it feels like a variation.
There's a lot less stats in F1 compared to football and football. There's only 20 drivers, there's only 10 teams, there's a lot less events as well too. There's a lot of races this year, but comparatively to football then it's a completely different sort of animal. So that's an interesting one, but
we'll see.
I would have put that further down the list.
Yeah. That's why we're not in marketing, maybe. I don't know.
Right.
So the game's coming out on the 16th of July. So that's going to be on the Friday practice of the Silverstone round 10. So that's probably where you can pick up the season from with this particular feature if you want to do that. I mean, we'll try it because it's new. Okay, next one. All right, next gen experience. Happy days. That's good. You get a free upgrade as well if you're on Xbox or PlayStation and you don't have the new gen consoles at the minute because demand is high and coronavirus is still happening and all these supply issues with chips means that it's quite hard to get a next gen system. So if you buy the PS4 or Xbox One version, you get a free upgrade. Now, there's an asterisk there, so I'm going to scroll down.
Oh yeah.
Well, that doesn't. Is it a 2 asterisk or 1 asterisk? Well, it's definitely got 1 asterisk, but I think it should apply to the 2 asterisk condition.
Yeah.
That's right. That's another mistake, I think. Conditions and restrictions apply. Retailer sites for details. So, to be clear on that, for Madden last year with the next gen systems, there was a limited timed period where you could redeem your free upgrade, and that was at EA's decision. Other games were a free upgrade for life or a longer period, I think, but certainly the EA sports games had a time period to redeem it.
Yeah.
and I would guess that something like this might happen. So just don't take it as granted.
I would give it a year. I don't know. I'm just going to
Yeah.
interject my opinion in here. Nobody asked for it, but I'm going to interject with it. I would give it 1 year. I think 1 year is really fair.
Yeah.
Because 1 year later would be the release of F1 2022. So, free upgrades don't really apply. That one should be just on the new gen.
Yeah.
So,
but I would just say closer to release, check the terms and conditions if you're thinking about doing that. What's returning to Formula One 2021? So this is just a bit that says all the stuff that's returning. So we features you know and love from F1 2020. So my team, which was a big introduction next year.
Yeah.
So far, there's not been a bullet point on how that's going to change or improve. Important to note. 2-player split screen, which came back to the series last year. Shorter seasons, which I thought was a really overlooked and good feature, because if you wanted to get through the My Team stuff and see driver transfers and stuff, that was a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
Accessible options, maybe accessibility options, it should say there.
Yeah.
And Formula 2 aren't going anywhere. Now, on Formula 2, when the 2020 game came out, it was the 2019 season.
Yeah.
And then it didn't arrive until 4 or 5 months later. So it could be the same again, but we don't know.
Yeah, I think part of the reason it took so long, though, is possibly just due to some of the bugs and glitches and stuff that were popping up with 2020. So maybe it won't take as much time this time. Also, maybe the EA influence, the EA cash monies will help to speed that process up a little bit. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's the 2020 season with the 2021 season to be interjected later.
But it's not confirmed anyway.
Right.
Which way it is. If it's either going to be the new one or the old one.
We're hypothesizing.
The last 2 years, it's been the previous year's seasons.
Right.
And you can tell I'm a bit small-brained because I'm struggling with that concept to try to explain it. But you know what I mean if you're watching and you've played these games. Okay, and then it's expanding and refining other features. So things that are already in there that are going to get a small upgrade. So scalable assist options. So there'll be some improvements there, I guess. Driver stats. That's crucial. So that could relate to the feature we just talked about, the live season earlier, or live join. Real season start even, I apologize.
So
and multiplayer. Multiplayer's a big one, but it's just a small point here.
One. That multiplayer at the end is interesting. So they've specifically included it in a sentence that says expanding and refining. So that's one of those things that I would imagine that gets the esports drivers and league racers to sit up and pay attention, because again,
they've got that one word.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, the poor esports guys. I imagine they feel really, really neglected at sometimes. Certainly, for example, Jarno Opmeer did a thing on Twitter not that long ago asking what you would like to see in F1 2021, which is always funny, by the way, when people do these things, a month or two before a game is being launched, like or announced, I should say, because it's not like they have time to make changes for it now. You know what I mean? Like the game is in the final stretch. They're not adding anything that people are coming up with ideas for. But I'm really hoping on a personal level that they are going to add more stuff in terms of like spectating tools, UI, overlay, cameras, that side of things. Exactly. I think it's great that they're doing career stuff, because career stuff is what brings people in.
It's what sells the game, I think. I know esports is popular, but that is only a handful of people competing.
But if you want to keep people sweet on social media and keep them from saying games crap, you're going to want to fix that online stuff as much as quickly as you can. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you've got a point there, because they're the esports on the sort of YouTubers and influencers who are really into the game, who will want these small multiplayer features that you mentioned.
That's the window into the game, I think. The career mode is the doorway. That's what gets you into the game. But the esports and spectating and stuff like that, that's like the window. Like before you've even bought the game, you're tuning in and you're looking at that sort of stuff. So yeah, I hope. And I mean, multiplayer's in there, so that kind of falls into that. So we'll see.
But so. Maybe we'll find more at a later date about the online. Yeah. We've got a couple of months to release. I certainly hope so. But obviously, for now, that's basically the majority of the information that they're pushing. You've got this sort of CGI trailer, which is focused on the story. I mean, it's basically just a trailer for the story.
Yeah.
Then you've got these bullet points here, and then we've got pre-ordering. And within here, there are some interesting things that's Justin actually spotted, I think, and I think it'll be overlooked by most people, but this is the really juicy stuff. So if you actually click to pre-order, and then you find the Steam bullet points for the deluxe edition. Would you like to enlighten us what you can see on there?
Yeah, so let's see here. Is there anything at the top that we missed? No, I think that gets it. So if you go to the
story,
so if you go to the deluxe edition pre-order page on EA.com, it says you get the My Team Icons pack.
Whoa!
And underneath that, 7 iconic drivers to enhance your My Team game experience.
Now that's mental.
Yes, that is. So we had Schumacher obviously last year,
but he wasn't. His cars were in the game, and his face was on the cover.
Yes.
But he's not in the game, if that makes sense. And this seems like a step forward from that.
Yes,
because in My Team, what happens is you can set up your own team. You can select from the existing Formula 2 grid and choose one of those as your teammate. So you've got your own fictional character yourself you've created. And you could choose from the F2 grid, I'm going to have this driver as my teammate. Then what happens after a season, there's a driver market in the game, and some drivers switch around, and some more F2 drivers come onto the grid as well. And consequently, to make space, some older drivers disappear from the grid. And so you have this really mixed up grid of drivers amongst different teams. Like I have Perez in a Renault, for example, and most of the F2 grid driving for Haas. Well, 2 of them. That doesn't make any sense, but you know what I mean. So this is saying 7 iconic drivers for the My Team experience.
Who do we want to say? Because like immediately, I want to say Schumacher's one of the 7, probably.
Right.
Probably Senna.
Yeah.
Maybe Prost.
Yeah, Prost. Or you could even have some more recent drivers as well that have since retired.
Right. Like a Mark Webber.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get Mark Webber, Felipe Massa.
Gosh, I hope Fernando Alonso isn't one of the 7 iconic drivers.
Well, he could be both, couldn't he?
Right. Yeah.
He's in it already, but you could have the young version.
With the soul patch on.
But that to me sounds like older drivers coming back into the My Team experience.
Maybe like a Fangio. That would be cool.
God, goodness,
really old would be cool.
The weird thing about that is, because I'm paying for it, in effect, for the deluxe edition, are they available straight away? Probably. And then, does that not interfere with the authenticity experience? Yeah. The word I couldn't say. Thanks.
Especially when you're trying to, it seems strange to me. You're
weird.
Right. It does seem weird. So I think it makes sense. Maybe in My Team, because you already have a fictional team on the grid.
That's a good point.
So yeah, you can get really, really wacky with it without people getting too upset. But yeah, they're going really heavy onto the feel of it. And they said on and off the track, feel what it's like to be a Formula One racing driver. And then they've got iconic drivers showing up. So that's certainly something I would hope.
It's a mismatch.
Right. So the first game that comes to mind is XCOM. I know that's weird, but XCOM 2, when you go to start a new game, it'll ask you, do you want to include the DLC stuff? Because after the game came out, they released some DLC content. Yeah, so you have the option when you're starting a new game of just doing the legacy game without all the bells and whistles and stuff, or you can do like the whole thing with the crazy stuff and whatnot. I would hope that you could do something like that. In this as well too, is that you could almost sort of turn off the iconic drivers in My Team. Now it does say specifically 7 iconic drivers to enhance your My Team game experience. So they wouldn't be showing up in career mode, which again,
no.
we've emphasized as a separate thing from My Team. So yeah, they've been very specific about that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's got to be to do with driver transfers and picking your own team. That's it.
Right.
And then the next one, do you want to go through that?
Yeah, the next one, there's one interesting part. It says exclusive in-game customization items, car livery, suit, gloves, helmet, victory radio call. Now, that's an interesting one. Yeah, that's an interesting one. So I would imagine they've either had the drivers re-record some of their infamous victory radio, like Pierre Gasly in Brazil.
That's the first one that I thought of.
Right? It's an amazing victory radio call. It's up there with among the best.
Alonso GP2 engine? No.
Sergio Perez crying on the radio after the Secure Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I think would be super cool if they could actually pull the radio. And I believe FOM, FIA, whoever it is, do actually own the rights to every piece of radio that
of course,
goes out from every single team, every single driver. So I think it would be super cool actually if they've actually just pulled ones and then maybe record some special ones as well too. Because again, I think it's all about choice. Personally, I'm always an advocate of choice. I would like to choose either one that was recorded by Pierre Gasly that's special just for this game, or use an iconic one, that has happened in the past and that sort of thing.
Now, you see, you've got me really excited, but then I'm just a bit, what if it's just random radio calls? Like, great job, guys. Well done, team.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. For sure. All the usual F1 stereotypes.
Right.
Guys,
there's only 5 versions, and you hear all 5 after your first season, and
it could be that. It could be that. Because the liveries and the suits and the gloves and the helmets, if 2020 is anything to go by, are, in my opinion, nothing to write home about.
Now, something's missing from that, as you pointed out.
Yeah. So in last year's game, you could unlock podium emotes, where basically your driver would, when you got on the podium, would do a little dance, take a selfie,
celebration,
all this stuff. It's not mentioned there as a pre-order item. Now, it could be that they're still in the game, but if it feels weird that you would not mention that if you don't get one free.
Well, there's another list. So just after that, it says you get the as part of the deluxe edition
content pack.
Yeah, you get the Breaking Point. Now, this is not part of the deluxe. So if you go to the standard edition, this part is now also in the standard edition. It says, celebrate the release of F1 2021 with exclusive in-game items inspired by the fictional stars of the new Breaking Point story experience. Equip them to race as Devon Butler, Aiden Jackson, or Casper. Was it Akkerman or Ackerman?
One of them.
Yeah, what are the other?
So that's who Crofty
said
in that trailer.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then underneath that, just to touch back on the point that we were talking about before, it again says character avatar, which is maybe like a 3D model. Yeah, I'm gonna assume that's like the 3D model for like when you go up on the podium and you celebrate and stuff. Car livery, suit, gloves, helmet, victory radio voices. Now that's interesting. So on the exclusive in-game, so for the 7 iconic drivers, or no, that's separate. So for the exclusive in-game customization items that we touched on earlier, it says victory radio call. But for these, it says victory radio voices.
Oh yeah, that is a distinction, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
What could that mean?
That's interesting.
I think I know what. Because it's saying that it's the voices of Devon Butler, Aiden Jackson, and Casper Akkerman.
So maybe they all say the same thing, but just
from the story, they might have a victory radio call. So my interpretation of this is basically those 3 fictional characters. So they must, by the way, that confirms 3 fictional characters for the story, right?
Yeah.
Previously, it was just 2. Yeah. There's no Weber on there, so
no Weber. Yeah.
No. Yeah. But so we know there's at least 3 characters. So maybe Butler's in F1 and these 2 are in F2 or something. Then also they must have their own sort of helmet and livery designs or suit and gloves, and you can just unlock those with this pack to apply to your vehicle if you wanted. And clearly that includes the radio voices.
I've also just discovered something live because I didn't scroll down past the part that says the studio, the genre, and the release date. If you look down,
compare editions.
Yeah, F1 2021 Deluxe Edition, early access, 3 days early access.
That is EA, because EA does that for every sports title for the last few years.
Yep.
So pay more for 3 days early, which I mean,
if you're a content creator, you're gonna do it. You know what I mean? You're absolutely.
But how many are those in the world, really? It's
more and more all the time.
More and more, but it's not thousands, is it? And
it's true.
And so it's going to help them. They're going to pay more. Is there a price for this deluxe edition anyway?
Let me handle that if you want. I can take.
Oh, there is.
Yeah, it's $15 USD if you want to give me the GBP on that.
It is £15 exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
more.
Interesting.
Weird.
It's unfortunate for you guys.
65. Yeah, £65 for the deluxe edition,
and $75 for the deluxe edition in the US.
So that is actually a fair chunk more for
$15.
Yeah, just cosmetic stuff that I don't really care about.
Right.
Other
All
than
you
the
get is
iconic drivers.
Right. You get the iconic drivers, you get the 3 days early access, and you get an additional 13,000
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, which is my least favorite word ever.
We should have that on the banner. Just his least favorite word ever. Bitcoin.
I hate the term Bitcoin so much.
Now in the game, this was a new edition Bitcoin for those who don't know in last year's game, and
yes,
it was for optional cosmetics. So when we're
Yes.
talking about
Please
character car liveries, suits, and gloves, they're which you get with the deluxe edition, or some of them you get with the standard version as well, right? There's also going to be that confirms to me the return of the podium pass, which incorporates Bitcoins, which is where if you play the game, you unlock sort of XP to level up. And then also you can unlock Bitcoin for doing certain challenges in the game. You spend those Bitcoin on cosmetic items that do nothing for performance. And they're largely not that great because for me, I would use it if I got classic liveries, but it's all just fictional stuff.
But since you can earn Bitcoin, you're essentially just paying money to unlock stuff quicker.
Right, from day one. Yeah.
Right,
now,
exactly.
Now, you can also buy with real money in the game these cosmetic items. So I guess you're also...
Right.
But yeah, you can earn Bitcoin in the game organically, just takes your time.
I don't hate that, if I'm honest. If you're gonna have paid currency, I want to be able to earn it for free by playing your game.
Right.
You know, essentially everybody has time or money. If they're playing a video game, they've got time or money. Potentially both, but they've got one or the other.
Yep.
And yeah, I would like people who don't have the money to buy that kind of stuff to be able to earn it. You know, I think that's only fair.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not a huge fan of the podium pass and Bitcoin in the game. For me, just the items were just a bit But because it was all cosmetic and optional stuff, doesn't matter to me, does it?
Exactly.
So same thing
I'm not
by the sound of
gonna
things.
write a thread on Twitter complaining about it or anything. You know, if you're spending real money on it, great. I hope it was, you know,
more power to you.
Worth it. Yeah, exactly.
So I
think
think
your money's worth.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's actually been a lot there, and also not a lot because there's no gameplay. There's a lot of we have more questions than ever probably, but we do know that the leak was accurate.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff in the pre-order page which perhaps can be very easy to miss, like the early access and radio calls and iconic drivers.
Yeah, which is weird. Why would that not be? That's really, really bizarre.
Also, not one of the main bullet points, and I think the final point for us to finish on is the track list. So within the pre-order spiel, it mentions 3 new circuits: Portimao, Imola, and Jeddah. Now, Jeddah's got a 1 asterisk that says our live service content may change as we continue development. I feel like that's a weird place to put it. Why would you call live service content being Jeddah? But that could mean, if that is in the right place, that track arrives later.
Yeah.
So bear that in mind. What are your thoughts on Portimao and Imola being added, though?
I think it's great. I know a lot of people were. I know a lot of people were hoping for those tracks in last year's game in 2020.
Right.
But it's so much work to.
It really is.
It is so much work to build a track. I'm going to make direct eye contact for this. It's so much work to build a track, guys. Like, you got to give them a break a little bit here to build, 2 tracks rapid fire while they're already building the next game would have been absolutely insane. Because I did see people like, come on, just add them as free tracks. They're part of the calendar now, so just add them. And it's not that simple. I mean, the AI lines alone, developing AI to work,
forget about that, don't you?
Takes so much time, and there's so many things that people just don't think about when it comes to that stuff. So
that's such a good point about the AI.
Yeah,
all that has to be programmed, doesn't it? Yeah.
So I'm not upset that we had to wait until 2021 to have the tracks. Yeah. I will admit, I expect the tracks. Any track at this point that's on the calendar, I expect it in the game, especially now that they're owned by EA. Now that they have EA money. If they miss a track 1 year, I will be livid. Livid.
Key point, actually, because if you just reread the sentence, it says, we'll be adding 3 new circuits, Portimao, Imola, and Jeddah, which will be available to all players as free post-launch content.
Okay. Now I got to bring up... Interesting. So Imola's the next race.
So hang on a minute. How does the bloody real season start work if Imola's joining after?
What in the world? And then Portimao is next. after this. I mean, so it's not a big deal for Jeddah because that's in December.
I guess it's just going to be the championship point table. But it's weird that's weird. Now, I thought we might not see these tracks in the game because it's they were added to the calendar late. If you don't, they were actually in the original 2021 calendar for Formula One in real life. So I am pleased, and I don't mind that they've confirmed it now that it is coming as a free update.
Yeah,
seems weird with the live services. And I should also point out, Portimao is not called Portimao. And I've been guilty of this many times, but I learned recently it's actually the Algarve International Circuit. Portimao is just a town nearby.
Well,
so,
is that one of those? Is that one of those things where like Laguna Seca and race? Like it's not technically called Laguna Seca, but everyone calls it Laguna Seca.
Oh, I'm not sure about
situations?
That. I think that's technically called WeatherTech Laguna Seca.
Yeah, WeatherTech, whatever. Yeah, the worst name.
That's
ever.
just sponsorship, I think.
Sonoma
this is where
as well.
Sonoma is probably one. Yeah.
It used to be called Infineon Race.
I knew it as Infineon. Yeah.
Yeah. From Gran Turismo.
I was like, what's this?
We're getting off topic.
But anyway, Algarve. So if someone from Autosport was reading that, they'd have a fit. So yeah, it's a weird launch because in terms of the writing, there's some errors on there and some weird fragrances that aren't very clear. But I think we should wrap up our rumble because we're just confusing it at this point. Yep. So thank you, Justin, for joining and speculating. The main thing here is we've got a new Formula One game coming. It's happening. It's coming to the next gen systems. There's going to be the new tracks that come in later. There's new additions. There's a newer story. And also there's a load of stuff we don't know about it yet. So stay tuned to Traxion. The website is traxion.gg. We're at TraxionGG on social media. You can search for us on YouTube. We've also got a podcast. And if you disagree with anything we've said, happy days. No problem. We welcome it. Place a comment on social media or on YouTube or on the website because comments are coming soon. And we'll get back to you. So thank you very much. Let us know what you think about Formula One 2021. And we'll see you soon for more.
Keep it pinned.
Oh, keep it pinned, yeah. Keep it pinned.